Hello! Welcome to Jorbs Scribbles on the Screen. Talks about every card in the Slay the Spire Compendium. Talking about Clash right now and Ironclad attack. One of the least interesting Ironclad attacks. This card is usually unplayable. At lower ascensions, this card is perhaps passable, but at high ascension, when you have an Ascender's Bane in your deck, so right from the start, you're unable to play it a third of the time ever because of Ascender's Bane. This card has a tremendous, very large downside. On top of that, you have statuses to contend with. A lot of the hardest fights in the game involve enemies putting statuses in your deck. A lot of the best cards for Ironclad involve Ironclad putting statuses in its own deck. And so it's really hard to ever want to make a deck that can consistently play Clash at all. Now, that said, that doesn't mean that the card has zero value. You don't have to act like when you're offered this card you've been offered nothing. There are some situations where you could want to take it and it could help you win a run. Mostly that's if you're about to walk into an elite fight in Act 1 and you haven't found any damage yet and you're being offered Clash and no other damage cards. So mostly when situation is really, really bad, Clash could be a very unfortunate solution that's like the best option out of a bunch of really bad options. In theory, the situation this card looks best in is if you miss an energy relic going into Act 2, you don't have too many skills and powers in your deck, and you have a medkit and a blue candle so you can get rid of statuses and curses in your hand. Maybe you have a dual wield or something too so that you can deal a bunch of damage with that. I'm pretty sure that nobody has ever seen what the Clash upgrade does, so I didn't bother to mention it. Actually, I'm curious, is it 18 damage or 21 damage? 18 damage, alright, yeah, I mean... this card's not very good. If you're using this card a lot, probably something is going tremendously wrong, and if you're never using this card, you might want to be a little bit more flexible, especially with thinking about how to kill Act 1 elites. Note that Gremlin Nob, Lagavulin, and the Sentries do not put statuses in your deck that affect you on the first cycle through the deck, so Clash will usually be a good card every time you draw it against Lagavulin. Sometimes that you draw it against Gremlin Nob, and the first time that you draw it against Sentries, but it also often won't be. Like if you draw it with Ascender's Bane, or if you don't draw it until the last few cards of your draw pile against Sentries and there's a daze in there with it or something, it's not even reliable enough for those things. So it's like, it's just barely maybe a passable solution for an Act 1 elite sometimes, but this is almost always going to be not a card you're taking. Cool.